Hello and welcome to the show. It's awesome to get to meet you, Stefanos.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we get into it, and I just want to do a quick introduction, everybody, about what this series is kind of all about. Tell me, am I saying your name right? Because I'm like, I hate getting people's names wrong. How should I be saying?
You can call me Steph.
Steph, all right. Cool. All right. I'd hate to go through the show and then just be like, oh my God, I've been calling you the wrong thing the whole time.
No, good.
It's happened before. So what I would love to just introduce everybody who hasn't been joining us all week this week. I just kind of got this idea that I'd bring some extraordinary souls together who are doing amazing things in the world, who are always looking to impact others in a positive way. And I thought, what better time than now to get some of that amazing inspiration and better perspective on how to handle the chaos that's sweeping the whole entire globe with this pandemic. So all about getting out of the fear zone into the growth zone. And I can't wait to introduce you to the incredible Steph. I'm just going to call you Steph. Oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher your name if I go any further. But what I love about your work, and I'd love to dive into a bunch of different questions that I'm super fascinated to ask you, is I love that you really seem to be of total service to the people outside there based on your own experience and your own studies and learnings. And you do it all with what I perceive to be such absolute heart. So it's an absolute honor. And I want to start off by asking you, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
Yeah, I was asked that question before on a webinar that I was on. We were all going through around and speaking to that. I'm really just grateful to the little things. I often am, honestly. I wake up in the morning, I get to squeeze fresh organic lemon in my water. I just, I have a toilet that has plumbing that takes literally the shit away. It's that level of gratitude, because I've traveled a lot. I've been to many developing nations. I've seen it's not that people are suffering, it's that we have such privilege living in the West on so many levels, and grateful that I have clean filtered water to drink. The air's fairly clean. It's a beautiful day. My biggest hardship is my training, and I've just moved into a new home, so putting furniture together, and which I enjoy doing as well. But it's not, I just feel very blessed and very grateful for very much the small things, and that's really what I'm grateful for. And these conversations, and thank you to everyone. Welcome to everyone that's coming on as well. But yeah, these conversations, these opportunities to connect in this way and just spread a greater message of connectivity, intimacy, and growth, expansion.
I absolutely love that. And I think it's really helpful to hear other people's, gratitudes and to put things into perspective and to kind of see, oh yeah, I've got that too. Maybe I've missed that a little bit. And I think that's really, really powerful. And one thing I also wanted to do was congratulate you on your recent marriage to the beautiful Christine Hassler. That was awesome. I saw that. I had the pleasure of getting to interview her a few years ago. So yeah, awesome to see you guys connected. You both do amazing work in the world. And so what I wanted to dive into with you, firstly, is asking you a little bit about what inspires you so much about the work that you choose to do. And also on top of that, if your inspiration is being magnified during this time of chaos for most people.
Yes, most definitely being magnified. I wake up every morning, I go to sleep every night. During the day, I'm thinking about how can I serve, how can I create, what can I create, what do I need to be and do within myself in order to serve at a high level, to be able to connect and communicate at a deeper level. I saw one of my brothers and one of my business partners, George, George and I speak almost on a daily basis with respect to that. We inspire each other. His capacity really inspires me. And he's not like working 15 hours a day. It's not about that. It's about the deliberateness. It's about the intention, you know, the intentionality and the posturing when we're in that space. And so I'm more inspired than ever in the chaos or in the confusion or in the uncertainty. Again, because I have the privilege, you know, I'm not naive to that. I have the privilege that I haven't lost my job per se. I'm not wondering where my next meal is coming from. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to have the capacity to think about, okay, how can I serve? How can I really go deeper into what it is that I'm giving the world, but also giving myself? And I'm using it as a time to also go deeper within myself. My stillness practices deepen, my breath practices deepen. I want to practice again at a deeper level what I am preaching or what I'm speaking to or what I'm advocating for. And so, yeah, I'm very inspired. What generally inspires me is, well, you know, you mentioned that you interviewed DeMartini. So DeMartini said, our voids often become our values. So what we didn't receive and get as children really drive us as adults. We want to fill those gaps as adults. And Harville Hendricks speaks to that as well in love and intimacy and relationships. And so for me, what I didn't get as a kid was connection, intimacy, and feeling safe. And I got a lot of volatility and isolation, and at least my perception of it, right? What I made my life mean. I felt unsafe. I didn't feel connected to my family. And so as an adult, really wanting to create that in the world. And for a long time, I pursued that in a very unhealthy way. It was the only way I knew. And I was unwilling to look at my pain and look at my stuff. Now, as a contemporary version of me, what I'm more interested in is I'm still very inspired to serve and give and help people see through their clutter, because I was so cluttered. I was so dictated by the past and by my shadows and by my trauma. And so I'm inspired to help people break through that density, or what appears to be density, in order to see themselves and see their truth, because what comes from that is fucking phenomenal and mysterious. It's different for every person, which is exciting, right? Like being in the element of the mystery and the uncertainty. Yep. Like we talk about clarity really being important, and clarity is important. Clarity is not everything, but it's so important. Having a clear vision. I often say it's harder to let go of an old habit or an old pattern that you are struggling with, or that is unhealthy, if you don't have anything to fill that gap with. Now, that is very true for so many, because for so many, it's too much of a big leap to just go into the unknown or the mystery. But that's where we need to go. We need to head there more. And Joe Dispenza speaks a great deal to the mystery of the darkness or the blackness. And that's sort of beyond the speed of light. We're entering a realm of quantum physics, but in it from a psycho-spiritual perspective, it's being in the mystery, it's being in the uncertain, it's being comfortable with the uncomfortable, being comfortable with the unknown. And if we can get there more and more often, because that drives me, that inspires me, the unknown inspires me. Okay, so what can happen today with me just sitting here, or me creating, or what can be next without me having to orchestrate and control everything? That's very inspiring for me as well.
Oh my gosh, you just poured out so many different rabbit holes I'd love to take you down with everything that you just shared. That's awesome. So I want to take you back to a couple of different things. And one of the first things you mentioned was around this concept of feeling privileged, being in a privileged position. And I want to ask you, because I see what you're saying from that, and I see the positivity or the empowerment of that, of just owning, hey, there are people who are dealing with not as great circumstances. Yeah. Maybe I've got a better situation here. But how much of it comes down to privilege versus choice? Because I'm always about, like I know you are as well, like putting people at a choice point so that they feel empowered, and they're not just like, oh, well, that guy's got everything. Of course it's working for him. I give up. So what would you say to that, the privilege versus choice?
So Advaita Vedanta, which is a way of being, a way of choosing to evolve, essentially, would say there are two arrows. The first arrow that hits us often does damage, but it's not as much damage as we think. It's the second arrow that has a capacity to do more damage. The first arrow is the environment, is everything that's out of our control. The second arrow that hits us is, do we choose to react or do we choose to respond? And it comes down to a choice. Now, when you ask that question, the reality of it is choice is influenced by many factors. One of them is environment. One of them is upbringing, history, the synaptic connections in our brains, our belief systems, our value sets. So there's a little bit of a fallacy with respect to making conscious choice, right? Like we think we're in a lot of power, this free will, and we are, and we're not. And Advaita Vedanta again says yes and no, yes and no. So I believe we have choice and we have a capacity to execute choice for the vast majority of the time. However, we also have to understand that we are not victims of our circumstances, but we are impacted by our circumstances. Now knowing that, appreciating that and accepting that actually empowers us to make more profound choices that take us down a particular path. So we're not victims, we're not helpless, we're not hopeless like so many of us are now in this time. People are losing their shit. People are struggling to stay in their own homes that they have built for themselves, whether they physically built it or they're just renting it, that doesn't matter, but that they've created for themselves. Now they don't want to be there because their freedoms are taken away. I feel that. I feel the anger. I feel the freedom being taken away from me, so to speak. But who and what is taking it away from me? Like really like so right here, right now, you and I are having a conversation, and outside of this conversation, nothing fucking exists. Nothing exists. Like you're safe, right? Are you safe right now?
Totally.
Are you nourished right now?
Yep.
You look super healthy. So there's no, the moment you pay attention to, coronavirus, COVID-19, or everyone's dying in Italy, or America's the, and like that's a story. These are stories and they're real and people are suffering. I get that. And if you are helpless, hopeless, and if you are stunned, like in a victim state and like a stunned mullet, literally, like a stunned fish out of water, what good are you to contributing to any collective movement or evolution in a direction that is healthier for us as a global society? The answer is minimal, right? And so, yeah, we do have a choice, and it's very important to know that it's not the environment that hurts us the most, it's how we respond to the environment. And Viktor Frankl speaks to this in Man's Search for Meaning. It's beautiful. I love it. Where this is a guy that's behind bars, it's in Nazi concentration camps, and he's still choosing. He's making a choice. I mean, I think to me that's pretty epic, if you ask me. So I think about those things. I think about people that have endured hardship, and I think about the times that I've endured hardship, and the choices I made and could have made, and the choices I want to make now. And so I go into that place. So yeah, a long way of saying choice is important, and we have to accept some truths around where we are in life as well.
Oh, you would be amazed how many of my interviewees this week have mentioned Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, it's relative.
Absolutely. And, what I'm really hearing from what you're saying there is, it's about knowing your starting point. It's about looking at the reality of your situation, knowing that, yes, there are those environmental external factors that are going to impact us. But then, like you said, that second arrow, knowing that from that place, you're at choice point. And despite your circumstances, despite your past, despite all those things that are no longer changeable in your current space, it's about, okay, how do I want to respond to this situation, not in comparison to other people, which may put me in the victim state, but actually moving forward and empowering people. And what I love about these sort of conversations that we're having right now is that I feel like it inspires people to step up and be the leader in their lives. And that's why I really, really appreciated your perspective then. And oh my gosh, there were so many. I feel like I could talk to you all day and have so many questions that I'd want to ask you. But I wanted to just tap into this little piece that you said before around helping people see through the clutter. So could you give people perspective on like what is the clutter that they may be experiencing right now, and how can you help them to just see through that clutter and get to the other side during this time?
Yeah, the clutter in its most simplest form is the past just repeating itself over and over again.
Yeah.
And it does so just to keep us safe. So for example, most of us experience some level of pain or trauma or difficulty, and the way we interpret that usually leads down the rabbit hole of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, low self-worth, I need to do more, I need to have more. There's this deficit, it's just coming from lack and scarcity and fear, right? And so in a subtle way, in an unconscious way, through the unconscious mind, we repeat these patterns of the past, and we think we're living presently, and we think we're making all these amazing choices, or these choices where we're making them, but really we're just being informed by past neuronal networks that have been laid down, past coping strategies that we've brought in, that we've created as children to help us survive and at least feel some level of safety, that we've brought into our adult lives. The reason for this is because the brain is a pattern recognizing machine. So neurologically, we're just recognizing patterns. And if we see anything that's similar, that resembles a trauma or a pain or a difficulty that we experienced in the past, these coping strategies come in, and they're reactive, they're not responsive. And so they're just on repeat. So that's the clutter. That's part of the clutter. It's the shadow stuff that comes up, right? It's not bad. However, we don't deal with it. And so it just keeps repeating itself and perpetuates in our reality and our relationships. How do I help people deal with that? In a variety of ways, using many different tools. So fundamentally, I'll sum it up very, very simply. There's two ways that we register, two core ways that we register trauma, or in fact, any experience for that matter. So there's a wiring that's happening neurologically in the brain, but let's look at it mentally more than anything else. So mentally, emotionally even, okay? And that is the stories that we tell ourselves, or the memories that we have about those particular experiences. That's why talk therapy can be very useful, because we're rewriting the stories that were once associated with pain and drama. We get to reframe them. And in doing so, we change the physiology of our brain to some extent as well, because the brain's plastic. And when we're doing that, we're feeding a healthier loop, right? And the second way that we register any experience, but let's just speak to trauma or difficulty here for a moment, is in the body somatically, so in the feeling body. Now, rewriting and reframing is powerful, but it's not the whole story. And so when I'm working with people in a one-on-one capacity, or in a larger group setting, whatever it may be, it's about doing our best to shift the paradigm mentally and neurologically and somatically and in the feeling body as well. So the how part is that. And there are many modalities and tools used to do that.
Okay, that is awesome. I love how you explain that clutter, because I'm with you on that. Being aware of what patterns are driving you, and making that realization is probably one of the most confronting, or humbling, I should say, situations we can ever be a part of. And I know you're huge into your work with relationships. I love this area because I feel like it's such a good wake-up call vehicle for your own patterns, because a lot of people, as you know, take themselves and their patterns to the next relationship and the next relationship and the next relationship, until they realize, hang on a minute, maybe I'm the common denominator. Why am I having these same experiences? So I'm really, really loving how you articulated that. And again, really enjoying getting to learn more about the work that you're doing. And it's so needed. So the next thing that I want to dive into with you is around connection, because the reason why I put together this little series this week was really because I just sat with myself. I was having sessions with clients, and I was talking to people from all across the globe, and we're all kind of talking about how similar our experiences are on the personal level. And I was navigating, well, what do people need to focus on right now? How can we simplify so that people can move forward and not get stuck up in their external chaos, but actually create some internal stability? And that's why I wanted to talk to you about the first topic around self-connection and its importance. And also, I'm really big on, as I know you would be as well, on applicability. Like, don't just listen to this conversation, like take action and apply some tools to your life. So the question I have for you based on all of that is, what is your best strategy for connecting with the self and creating an internal stability so that we can all be navigating external chaos in a much better way?
Yeah. So I want to take a balanced or harmonious perspective, because I think that's what the world needs, and that's what we're being reflected, right? So when we look at the world and we look at one of many reasons as to why we are where we are today is because we've been, if you look at it from a place of dichotomy or polarity dynamics, masculine, feminine dynamics as an example, you look that we've been in a very shadow masculine space for a long time, controlling, autocracy, oppression, judgment, subjugation, forcefulness. And now we're almost all hyper passive. We're helpless, we're in this victim place. It's like we're in this shadow feminine now, and that's not healthy. Either both are not healthy. They're extremes. And so to answer your question, a balanced approach. So routine is imperative, and that's a masculine paradigm, right? It's a masculine energetic. Doesn't mean men only do it. We all have routines. Just masculine energetic, okay? It's like when you're looking at wires in electricity, they call it male, female wires. They're just polar opposites, that's all, but they're complementary opposites, in fact. So having structure and routine, what does that look like? Going to bed at a particular time, getting up at a particular time, having a morning and an evening routine. Maybe your evening routine is having dinner at 6:30, and have some flexibility. You don't have to be super rigid, and don't be hard on yourself, and I'll come into that in a moment, but don't have to be super rigid, but just create some level of routine in your world, because that's going to really help you deal with the uncertainty, because routine is certain. Routine is that, oh, I know what's coming next. So you feel this calmness and safety within, at least neurologically and in the enteric system. So in your physiology, you'll feel that safety. More unconscious than anything else, but you'll feel it, right? And it will impact your thoughts and the emotions that you have as well. So that routine in the morning, in the evening, could be having dinner at 6:37. It could be doing some reading, maybe watching a movie even. That's okay. And then going to bed at a particular time and having a routine for going to bed, whether there's some hygiene involved, whether there's some reading again, or maybe some journaling, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's companionship with your partner. Maybe it's getting on the phone with mum or dad or a sister or brother or a friend, whatever it may be. And then in the morning, you have that routine as well, where maybe you're waking up in the morning, there's a protocol that you have, like a health protocol. Maybe there's a meditation, some reading, some journaling, some breath work, some movement, exercise. Maybe it's doing some work and answering some emails. Whatever your routine is, have a routine. And it's helpful. So I'm giving you a framework, right? You feel the framework how you want. The second part, which is a more feminine approach, is ensuring that you're doing some healing work for yourself, especially during this time. And so that really, the feminine part is kindness, compassion, and self-care. And so that looks like being kind to yourself, noticing how you're speaking to yourself, allowing yourself to express emotions in a healthy way. If you're feeling fucking angry because of what's happening in the world, can you go through some anger emotional release techniques, whether that's getting on your bed and hitting the mattress over and over again until you're exhausted, and screaming into a pillow and swearing and releasing that so you're not projecting it onto friends and loved ones and onto yourself. Self-care is important. That may look like having a bath, having a warm shower or a cold shower, cold, hot therapy, engaging in novelty and fun and play in your day or your week. That's part of self-care, right? It's part of that feminine approach. So self-care, compassion, kindness is one framework or component. I've given you many examples of what that looks like. Routine and structure is the other framework or component. I've given you many examples of what that looks like. Fill it in. Make it happen for yourself. And this isn't about distracting yourself from feeling pain. No. I want you to feel pain. And I don't mean that in a sadistic way. If you're feeling pain, angst, sadness, anxiety, feel it. Learn to process it. If you don't know how, guess what? There are a lot of people, psychologists, counselors, coaches, that were once seeing people face to face that are now doing it all virtually. Guess what? You'll find someone on the line, on the interwebs. You'll find someone. So go there and help someone, get someone to help you process that if that's not in your scope of affordability. I'm trying to eliminate excuses here if you can't see me doing that. Join a circle, a sister circle, a brother circle. There are many free things. I'm doing so many free things at the moment. So is my partner. Together we're doing, I mean, I always do anyway, but I'm doing even more now. So it's everywhere. That's abundant. You have an internet connection. You have access to healing. You have access to just relieving and moving through your pain and your suffering and your discomfort. So routines and structure, creating some more known in your life is very important, and meet yourself with self-care. Meet yourself with self-love, compassion, kindness.
Boom. Oh my gosh, so much again in what you just said then. What I loved was I was kind of picking up that it's like you mentioned earlier around these patterns that we unconsciously play. What you're suggesting is like using that tendency that we have as human beings to fall into patterns, but using it in a conscious, empowered way where you're actually selecting the patterns that you're going to, that are going to
You're
move you in
working
the right
through them
direction.
actively.
Absolutely. And what I also loved about what you mentioned was just you took both angles, right? The balance that you're talking about. So consciously choosing the balance. And something popped up for me. I always take this kind of off the you know, the script. I don't do scripts very well. But what I really caught from you there was almost like I had a little realization that I just maybe like to run past you because I know this is your area of expertise. But in terms of having that, as you call it, the shadow masculine, the shadow feminine, and seeing how you know, this pandemic is kind of trying to bring us into balance, trying to wake us up to those shadow sides. So we're kind of at choice point. Do we want this? Do we want to change? Are you seeing that when, because I see this in relationship dynamics all the time. I've experienced this personally as well, where we can get so hyper focused on the man needs to be masculine, the woman needs to be feminine, and we discount or judge each other for having the experience of the other side. And because maybe we're judging ourselves for, say, if I'm a feminine woman coming into a relationship and my partner is the masculine source, but when I step into my masculine, that might trigger him to be threatened or judge me for that, like, oh, you're in your masculine, or something like that, which I see happen time and time again. Are you seeing that dynamic of self-judgment of the other side, of the balanced approach to being a human being, plus coupled with the external element of that challenge or judgment, actually forcing people to have this kind of shadow side come out, instead of consciously choosing to go, you know what, like in my intimate relationship, I realized that you know, playing this role is going to create more of an attraction and an intimacy, but then I'm not going to discount this other part of me, and I'm going to continuously build that and bring balance to myself so that that shadow side maybe doesn't come in and trip us up. Am I totally off track here, or is that something that rings true, or what's your perspective on what I just shared?
I think I understand your question or your sharing.
Yeah.
And so the way I would respond to it is this way. Every individual needs to really tap into what their core essence is, and they lead with that. But the more you lead with your core essence, the more balance you actually become. Now, with respect to shadow expression, that's just an extreme unsustainable expression. It's unsustainable because it's over a long period of time. And it's extreme in its behavior, that it's either an avoidance of something that needs to be looked at within you, or it's projecting a great deal of pain and pushing others away. And there is more to just that than extreme behavior. Or it's socially unacceptable, or it's volatile, or it's purposely hurting others. So there's many elements to the shadow behavior. Now is definitely now more than ever is a great time to look at your shadow behavior, and it's coming up for a lot of people because a lot of people are in fear. So fear breeds fear, essentially. It's dense, energetic, so we'll breed more of that and magnetize more of that. So a lot of what's happening now isn't just fear that is in response to contemporary circumstances. It's also fear that we're feeling within ourselves being amplified by old stuff. And that can put us into an unhealthy expression of the masculine or the feminine or both. And so being mindful of that and choosing to work on that, choosing to be aware of that and move through that actually helps us and those that are in our circle create firmer foundations for healthier relationships to self and to others. Did I answer your question correctly?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just riffing here because I love learning from people such as yourself. So I was just kind of like, I just run this idea past you because I thought, that's an interesting thought. So basically what I'm hearing you say is to look at, you know, oftentimes people aren't aware of their patterns or aren't even bothered to look at them until there's a problem. So it's almost like catch the problem and then kind of backtrack and go, hang on a minute, like, what is this being driven by? What's the pattern here? Maybe what healing do I need to do? Maybe I'm out of alignment in some way, and what can I do to help balance out the equation? What's maybe even the other side than of what's going on here?
You don't need to relive the past. You just have to have context, right? And the paradox is, the deeper we go into that intensity, the quicker it dissolves and the faster we gain the wisdom from that experience, as opposed to continuing to oppress it within ourselves and suppress it and numb it, which just keeps rearing its very, I don't want to say ugly head, but it keeps rearing its very intense head.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I love that. That's awesome. I think that you're really giving a lot of people perspective and action that they can be taking, and also definitely challenging them to build awareness and go, hang on a minute, let's maybe take a meta perspective on how I've been living. Because I think that's one of the major benefits of this time right now. You know, going into that self-reflection, having that time and space to really reflect on what's working for us, what's not working for us, all that sort of great stuff. Which really brings me into the next question that I want to ask you, because another thing that I think a lot of people can be missing at this time is their clarity, you know, because we can get caught up in everything going on around us and watching the news and all that sort of stuff, and losing sight of where we're headed. Because for a lot of people, you know, like you mentioned at the start of this call, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, life as they have known it is going to be totally different from this point. So my question for you is a bit of a funny one, because I want for you to maybe share with us what powerful question we could all be asking and answering for ourselves right now that would allow us to actually have clarity over something that inspires us, that will pull us through the chaotic time, and, you know, make sure that that second arrow that we've got the choice point of, you know, we're actually responding rather than reacting.
It's a great question. The question that we can be asking ourselves. I keep coming back to this. I mean, when you were asking the question, this is the question that popped into my mind. I didn't initially say it because I thought, oh, let me just feel into it a little bit. Let me just be patient with it. But the question that's coming up for me is consistently asking, who am I?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very simple question. However, it can really take you down a rabbit hole. And I think it's in the exploration of who am I that we discover so much, not only about ourselves, but about where we're going and what we're capable of, and so many facets to our own human condition.
Oh my gosh, I'm really grateful that you're taking that time to feel into things, because that's so powerful and profound to just ask that question about, because it all starts with ourselves, as we know. You know, that's foundational to every other person, relationship, experience, choices that you're making. You want it to be stemming from the person that you want to be, that you're proud to be, that's in alignment with what you want to experience and what you want your life to be about. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a really profound question. Thank you. Awesome. And again, it's actually funny for me because I don't know how many in our audience have been with me this week sharing these interviews, but that question has come up. A lot of people shared a very similar thing about take it back to who am I, you know, and I really appreciate that, you know, you guys are doing great things. You have different messages, different ways of being, but it comes down, and I hope people get through this series, like the commonalities that are being said over and over again, because there's a reason, because it rings really true. So thank you so much for sharing that question, and I hope everybody in our audience is going to definitely ask that question. I'm going to check in with it after this call as well, and just make sure what my answers are coming out, or how I'd really be proud of them to be. And that brings me to another question that I'd love to ask you, because again, you know, having some challenge in our life at this time. But I know we can look at this pandemic and we can look at, oh my God, like there's so much challenge. How about a little bit of stability here? But I feel like personally, like what we're talking about, if we're consciously selecting challenges for ourselves, it's going to really empower us during a time like this so that we don't, you know, just stay kind of stuck. And we also build upon understanding and getting more connected to who we are through challenge, through uncertainty, but in the safe container of conscious choice that will move us forward in the right direction. So my question is, what inspiring challenge do you suggest that all of us do today so that we can ensure that we're continuing to grow and expand during this time?
Whatever it is you've been avoiding.
Boom. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I loved your just boom. This is exactly it. Okay, cool. And
I could say to you, go run 30 kilometers. Yep. Someone would say that's not really challenging for me because I run about 190 a week anyway, so 30 is easy. Well, I could say, you know, journal 1,000 words every day for the next 30 days. Because that's going to help you be reflective and understand yourself and express emotionally. Some may say, well, that's easy because I journal like 3 times a day in 2,000 words. So whatever it is you've been avoiding, go into that. Lean into that because that's where your growth edge is.
Oh my gosh, I think that's my favorite challenge actually of the week. So I really appreciate you saying that. It's so simple, so true. And I want to challenge you and ask you, what have you been avoiding that you maybe need to move toward?
It's a good question.
It's your question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah. It's what have I been avoiding? You know what? I've been avoiding reaching out to my mum and my dad, I've been procrastinating on that because they live in Greece and I'm here in the US. I live in the US, and I really just need to just touch base and talk to them. And I've been avoiding it because I know how my parents are. They lean on me, and it's like, I don't really want to, you know, I'm going to put up with them. But it's not so much. I mean, I love my parents. I very, very close, but I've been avoiding that, and that's probably a little of a growth edge for me as well. So just having a chat. It's been too long since I've spoken with them, so too long for me anyway. So really, and it was early. It's interesting because earlier this week, what are we, Saturday today? So it must have been Wednesday. I'm in the process of releasing a podcast and so forth, and I've been doing just every morning basis part of my morning practice. I'll get up and I'll go through a stillness practice and a breath practice and so forth, and then I'll do some verbal journaling into basically I record. It's just like a podcast, right? It's a small podcast, deep reflections. And it was Wednesday or Thursday. It was one about mum. I was really going deep into the mother wound and the connection with mum and how we've healed so much and how there's probably some more to do there. And like I miss mum and I haven't spoken to her for some time. We've been messaging and so forth and contacting, been checking in on her. She's been checking in on me, but haven't really just jumped on the phone and just been procrastinating about it. So just that, like I need to lean into that and do that and speak to mum and dad. Yeah.
Boom. I love that. And I love that on so many levels, particularly because, I think was the reason why I wanted to challenge you on that is because personally, I find it really empowering, and I'm sure the audience will as well, when we see leaders walk their talk, and own their shit,
I'm an open book. I can't think of anything you could ask me that I wouldn't respond as honestly as I could to honestly, full stop.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody can feel that. And I really, really loved your challenge and you representing for it then. And I don't know who says this, but it's something that always rings true for me. And I remind myself, because there's definitely things I'm avoiding too. You reminded me just now, It's Sunday here in Australia. It's Easter Sunday. I haven't given my granny a call. She's been really wanting to hear from me. So you did spark it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to do that.
I encourage you. Firstly, I'm in no position to tell anyone do this because it will challenge you. I'm happy to do that, and I do it often, but it's better if you can find that inspiration from within. That's powerful. But I had a very, very close connection to all my grandparents, and they were a big part of my life. And so my encouragement to you is they're a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and beauty, and leaning. Your grandmother's probably been through a lot worse than a coronavirus, so we could probably learn a lot from your grandmother. You should get her up on the show.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the first person I asked when all the craziness was starting to hit, and I was actually living up in Queensland, and I'm like, do I come home? I just broken up a relationship, and I was like, do I get stuck up here by myself, or do I head home? And I gave her a call because she's actually a survivor of the Holocaust. Lost both of her parents in concentration camps, escaped, and she actually told me about, I'd love to have her on here. Oh my gosh, one day I'll get here. But she told me she could remember the day that World War II broke out, and she was 13 years old, and she could tell me about what the experience was. And man, it was a lot harder than us dealing with coronavirus and all the support that we've got and the internet connections, that we can make so much more happen in this world. So got to put things into perspective sometimes. And absolutely. And
without taking away from the present moment, but sometimes it helps.
Absolutely. Just perspective, just getting back into balance and seeing things as they really are, not worse than they are, or even not better than they are. Just bring yourself into reality. Absolutely. And that quote that came up, I have no idea, maybe somebody in our audience might know who this is from, but I'm always reminded of it based on your challenge, which is the very thing that you're avoiding is the thing that will set you free. So that's why I'm just loving that challenge. Sick. I'm taking part in it. I hope everybody else will as well. And I just wanted to say what a pleasure it is to get to meet you and connect with you and dive into your wealth of wisdom. And I wanted to just ask you if there was any other things that you wanted a message that you might have had that you'd want to share with everybody listening right now, whatever comes to heart or whatever you're feeling into.
Yeah, hard times create strong people. So it's okay that we're going through some hard times right now. And I think if we embrace that and accept that and step into that, and without pushing it away and resisting it, because we'll just keep persisting at some level, right? The second arrow, how we're choosing to be with it. If we lean into that, it's going to give us a deeper sense of self and connection to self. So lean into the tough times as best as we can with the tools that we have. And be kind to ourselves in the process. and just one more thing on that, like fucking grunt, like get in there, and if it's uncomfortable, get in the discomfort. Maybe create some discomfort in your life. Those challenges that you spoke about, create some of those challenges in your life in a healthy way, in a deliberate way, to help you cultivate confidence and resilience so that you feel better about the challenges that are happening externally, and you're able to deal with them in a far more proficient way.
Oh, I love that. And what I'm really enjoying is your balanced perspective on everything that you're sharing, because what I'm hearing is to kind of surrender to what you can't control, but have the grunt and the conscious direction and intention and the deliberateness to actually move forward from a place that you are connected to who it is that you're proud to be, and that you're moving in an inspiring direction that is ultimately going to inspire others to step up and be the leaders in their own life as well.
Yeah, get the mud's there, jump in it, play it, cultivate some resilience and toughness. It's going to go a long way.
Love that. That's awesome. Yeah, hard times create strong people. Is that right? Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. So just before I let you go and just do a quick little sign off, I just wanted to double check in. I know we had some comments. But yeah, somebody said something beautiful, a spiritual and beautiful connection between you, Steph, and Christine. I captured that one. I was like, oh, that's sweet. And another, Love Your Fit Body says, blessed to have the social media to connect with people. That's awesome. And anything, it's hard to check these out. And I've been taking this time to heal and grow. That's awesome. And I hope that, I'm sure this interview will help people do the same. So that's awesome. And like, that's pretty much what you were saying, you know, taking that balanced masculine and feminine approach, you know, to go after what you want, but also take that time to heal and, you know, be compassionate and kind. So awesome. And integrated mind and soul healings. When we're in fight or flight mode, parts of our brain shut down. Yeah, absolutely. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, it's a beautiful comments.
Absolutely. And last ones here. Such heartfelt feedback. Thank you for sharing your light and love with us. I think that was when you were sharing, you know, you were tapping into your own challenge there and sharing about, maybe putting off contacting your mum and dad. So that's awesome. And Jerry said also, I'm reaching for my mum on Messenger and phone, always inspiring moments. That's cool. I love it. And always keep our fights alive. I love it. And thank you. Amazing stuff. And this event will pass. Yes, absolutely. This too shall pass. Absolutely. So I just want to acknowledge you and honor you, Steph, for just the amazing individual that you are, representing what it is to be a leader who is walking their talk and doing some empowering work. And personally, I don't think there's anything more empowering to people than having a balanced approach to everything that they do, to see where their stuckness is created from a one-sidedness and to help balance themselves out and not stay rigid. So appreciate your time and your energy, and hope to do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And if you do save this, please send me a copy and I'll promote it through my network for you as well.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I've been putting these up. I'll download it. I put it across Facebook and YouTube and all sorts of stuff. So I'll tag you in, and yeah, look forward to connecting again. And maybe I'll just ask you, is there anything that myself or our audience could be supporting you on right now?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I mean, Christine and I, at least 2 times a week, are doing free transmissions, meditations, breath work, live coaching, really taking people through the stuff, which is really beautiful. I've got a free Dealing with Fear and Uncertainty 7-day course that you can access on my Instagram bio. Yeah, I just created it a couple of weeks ago in response to what's happening. And we have an amazing program called Be the Queen, which is for single ladies looking to call in healthy relationships, but also really work deeply on themselves. And now's an amazing time to be doing that. So yeah, lots of things there. You can go to christinehassler.com/be the queen, and there's a lot of information there on that as well.
Oh, amazing. I'll definitely be checking all of that out, and I'll have some of that linked up with our video today when I push it across the platforms. Right. So thank you again, Steph. I can't wait to connect again soon, and love. All right, bye.